Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Super excited to be here. My name is Jonah, and I am with Discover, and we're going to be talking to Tami today. And before we get into anything, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear us and see us all right. So please hop into the comments, let us know if the video is working and the audio is all working. Tami, if you could just give a little wave and hello.
Hello.
We got
Excited to be here.
Yeah, tuning in from Houston already. Love it. And yeah, feel free also to call out in the comments where you're tuning in from, how you heard about Tami, how you heard about Discover, something you're excited to learn, maybe just why you're here in general. We love hearing all of those things. And to set a couple expectations for today as well, if things are moving fast or you have to get up or maybe the Amazon delivery comes or something like that, don't freak out. All of this will be available as a replay. It'll be emailed to you. It'll also be here on the YouTube channel and the Discover event page as well. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them throughout the presentation. We'll do our best to answer them as they come up. And if not, we will have a dedicated Q&A after the presentation. So if we miss a question during the presentation, please plop it in the Q&A and we will make sure to answer it. I just want to call this out a little. We got Judy Straight. Thank you. She can hear us tuning in. Here from Cape Creek, Arizona, from Nevada, from Ontario, Canada. Martha, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Awesome. Love it. Yeah, so just to give a proper introduction, we have Tami Macala today, and she's going to be teaching us 3 ways to create a mosaic address sign. Sorry, I'm chewing on my tongue here. And we're going to learn how to properly create a grid for your numbers, choose a font that works best, select the right color tiles, pick the best frame or substrate, and adhere the numbers to the substrate. And I know, Tami, you were saying we got a lot to cover today. So love that you're packing all of this into the event. A little background on Tami. Tami, owner of Mosaic Arts Online, is a professional mosaic artist. Tami has been creating mosaic art for over 20 years. In 2016, she founded Mosaic Arts Online, so she and other professional mosaic artists and instructors can teach to larger audiences of eager and enthusiastic students around the world. Without further ado, I want to hand it over to you and take it away.
Thanks, Jonah. Oh, so good to be here again at Discover Teachable. Teachable means so much to us. As of 2019, my husband Jerry joined me. So together now we own Mosaic Arts Online, and it has become our passion and our everyday job, and we love it, and we love being able to reach so many students. So this is just such a great platform to be able to share even more of our content with all of you. So what Jonah said is right. I am so over the top ambitious today, what I think I want to demo and tell everybody. But what I want to show you really quick, at least for this time, is this is the mosaic that is in the Mosaic Arts Online course. And it is made with Mexican smalty, which if you are new to mosaic art and you have never heard how to make it or what that material is, we will get to that. But before that, I thought I would take a couple steps backwards and show a couple really easy ways or easier ways to create a mosaic address sign that you could just pop a few links on the computer, order some supplies, and be making them. And then if you really feel like this is your thing and you want to go for it with the really beautiful Mexican smalty, which I'll show you, and whatever font gets you excited, and a couple of different grout techniques, which we won't be going over grout today, then this is the course for you. So without further ado to my other camera, I'm going to switch over and start demoing and talking to all of you about how to do 3 different methods. Give me 1 second here to flip the camera and get over to it. I'll be there in 1 second. All right, so what we have here is 3 different methods. And so what I'm going to talk to you about is the easiest, which is a grid, stained glass with 2 letters, because sometimes people only have 2 letters, and show you the vertical version. And then this is going to be the third version, and this is the one that will be in Mexican Smalty. Now, obviously, this is not going to be any finished mosaics, but what we're going to do is introduce the frame, the substrate, the adhesive, some cutting techniques, and the materials with the cutting. So to start, I'm going to push these two aside really quickly, and I'm going to bring up 425. And 425 is the reason that all of these are 3 numbers or 2 is because these frames are small. So let's start with talking about the frame. The frame is an Easy Mosaics frame. So they are custom made, they are aluminum, and they come with the substrate, which is an exterior grade substrate called Go Board, and they come with a hanging hardware. So these are the screws you need to keep it secured inside the frame, the substrate, and then also the hanging hardware. So that all comes together in the Easy Frame. And Jonah's going to share some links with all of you if you are brand new to this, as far as where to get the frame. I'm a huge fan of this frame, of this company, of Wits End Mosaic, where they come from, because it's just like plop and go. Like you don't have to go think about where you're going to make it from. So all of my address signs are done with the Easy Frame. So if you have 4 numbers, 5 numbers, they come longer. You can go look at the website after our little time together and see the different lengths that you can do. But for our tutorial, I picked the 6x10 so that we could just get through this. So second, let's talk about how to do a really easy mosaic. So with an easy one, and never maybe having done it before, not ready to invest in how to cut stained glass or the Mexican Smalty, you can do one with a grid. And again, this will depend on the materials you choose. These are 9/16 Eco recycled tiles that come from another link that's in the end of this time together that Jonah will share. And I made my own grid. You can make your own grid. Again, depending on what size these are, you can get another thing called vitreous glass, and those are almost an inch square. So you got to make your own grid to the size of what we call your tessera, or your materials that you're going to create with. So once you've created your grid, you can then take a piece of carbon paper, yep, the good old simple carbon paper, set it on your substrate before you've put it and secured it in there, lay this down, and then I just did an entire grid, as you can see. And then I took there's no reason to go online to find this font. This font is just simply going to be using the size of the tessera. We're going to do a little bit of cutting in here to make it have some roundness for the different numbers. But it's a really, really simple technique. So hopefully you've all followed along so far. Once I put the grid down and once I put the numbers down, I then secured this. So this has to be done before you start your mosaic, putting in this hanging hardware and securing the substrate to the frame. And again, this little thing is exactly the directions how to do it. Super easy. Once you've done one, it's a really, really easy process. So the other thing I want to talk about is when you choose your material colors and how important that is. And contrast is kind of what it's all about. Now, for this piece that I did here, this is white with a dark background. And that's what the client wanted when I created this mosaic. But sometimes it's actually better to go the opposite, where the dark is the numbers and the light is the background. So taking these tiles, like I said, that are 9/16, you can just start to place them just to make sure you're happy with where they are going to be set. So you can see here, this really pretty dark teal color is going to make the 4. And then we'll go back through in a minute and do some gluing down, and then we can do some background so you can see how it's going to pop. And we'll talk about the adhesive in a moment, because it's a really great one to use for exterior pieces without having to get out a big tub of mastic or Thinset. If you've even heard what Thinset is an exterior grade cementitious product that I'm sure you've heard of it, maybe if you've done your kitchen tiling or bathroom tiling, but it comes only in like 25 or 50 pound bags. So if you're not familiar with it and you are just committing to maybe doing a small one, we're going to talk about this really great adhesive. So as you can see, the 4 is like already popping off. And so the color that I chose for the background that we'll lay in is this really pretty cream, almost the same as the color of the substrate, which, oh well, but at least it shows you the contrast that you can create with this really simple grid design. So now let's talk about the adhesive. So this is DAP Quick Seal, and it's actually a kitchen and bath caulking. So it bonds like glue, but it's meant to, you know, seal out water. So it has a really, really strong seal. It does not smell. And unlike silicone, it doesn't drag out of your tube and like have big strings of it going everywhere. Because silicone could be your other exterior grade adhesive, but I'm a huge fan of this one. You'll have a choice of a color at the top here, white, biscuit, other colors because it's caulking. And I like the clear. It's going to come out white, but I really like the clear on things like this because if a tiny bit squeezes out, you don't have a big white glob sitting in front of you. So without further ado, again, we're going to add a little adhesive to the back side. Now you always want to make sure with these tiles, they have a little bit of this gritty stuff. That is the back. That will always be the back. Don't ever use that on the front because grout gets in it. It's just it does not look pretty. But the back, it's supposed to have those little grids because it's teeth. It's what helps grip the tile to the substrate. So we're going to lay it down and it's going right over the hanging hardware and it's not causing any bump because these little washers are really, really nice. They almost totally flush to it. So then I'm going to pick up the next one. And my goal is to actually get this whole 425 done and then move on to 2 others. Like I said, I was super ambitious. So quickly, we're going to do this 4. But so you can see, and we'll come back and clean up that adhesive that's squeezing out in a minute. I have a little tool for that. So let's see, it's just a dab. It smushes out all by itself, so you don't need a lot. The more adhesive you put on, the messier your work is going to be. And that is not a good thing. You want to work as clean as possible. 2 more. And my assistant over here is going to get me a wipe to clean up. I'll use my little tool and then I can wipe off the side. So I take a little popsicle stick and I just swipe around the edges. You don't want this stuff to dry. If you're going to only end up doing, let's say, your numbers one day and you want to come back the next day, you want to make sure you get all this up because it dries rock hard and then it's really a pain to get off later. It's okay if they move a little bit. We'll move them back where they go. But so there you go. I mean, what I just explained to you, anybody can do. These tiles don't have any sharp edges. They're really easy to work with. They come in so many beautiful colors. So there, the 4 is done. And if it gets on top of your tiles, the glue, don't worry about that either. You'll be totally fine. So I'm going to show you a little bit closer up. And now we'll move on quickly because I want to show you what happens with when we have to cut them to give them a little bit of a personality. So these are called Mosaic wheel nippers, and they are also in the links. If you've never seen them before, these are what we use to cut glass, not ceramic tile, just glass, either stained glass or all the glass I'm going to cut today will be with these nippers, and they're called Leponettes, and they're the best brand to get. They're an Italian brand. So what you can see here is most of my squares filled in. So I'm only cutting the corner off to give it a little shape. And I had to do all this ahead of time so that we could move along today. But so now you see that one go down, and now look how nicely those match up. So the idea is you really want to make sure that when you cut this one, that this corner is going to stay on that tile and that you're just going to take that little diagonal off. So we'll do that again. And now you see how that corner hit that one? So those 3 are really nice. And then this will have a really nice edge to meet there. So I'm going to glue these down again, working it breakneck speed to do this. Hopefully everyone's getting a good view and learning a thing or two. If you're new to this, this is a great way to have an address sign in just a matter of days. Okay, so now I'm going to give it a little bit of a tilt. And now this one will tilt it as well. And remember, the other thing you want to think about is you're going to have grout going between these. So you don't want to jam them up next to each other. There's a little bit of space between each of my tiles, and that's where the grout goes. You don't want to leave much more than 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch, but you definitely want to leave some space for the grout. But as I'm sort of turning these, again, making it easier on all of us, you can see that with a little bit of space, you can create a little curve without really having to cut much. All right, keep going. Get this 2 down. That's getting off my little pattern a little bit. And also, we'll talk about fonts when we get to the next one, because fonts are really important. This one doesn't really have much of a font, as you can see, but fonts are important. And then spacing on your substrate. And this one, as you can see, I have 1 square, 1 square, 1 square blank, and 2 squares in between. So depending on how big you want to make your address sign, you can decide if you want more or less of that kind of spacing for your numbers. But this is about as basic as it gets. So now we have the 2 down. How's that look? Looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to do the 5 really quick, and then we'll come back and clean up and show a little bit of background, which is pretty self-explanatory, as you can imagine, because we're just working in this grid. But if you're looking to make an address sign, maybe as a gift for someone or for yourself, this is really, really a great gateway technique. Almost a drug, but can be a drug, because most of us mosaic artists are just crazy about this art, and it is our drug. So we're going to put 1 more piece straight down, and then I'm going to cut one. So this one, you can see my pattern here. I have a half, so I'm just going to, again, put the tile right into the nippers straight. Make sure it's all exactly where it should be, and you want to clamp down really fast. And so now we're going to put that one down. And we'll do 1 more. Again, not really disrupted too much by the washer. Just get it flat, straight on. Two more, and we will have this one completed. And now we have 4, 2, 5. Great. So very, very simple. Really, anybody can do it. It's really easy. Again, you're just cleaning up so that you can get your tiles next to them. Some people use dental picks or other kinds of picks. Not popsicle, but coffee stirrers. The little skinnier ones work great. I just take popsicle sticks and cut them off on the edges to make the point. Very easy. And then you just want to make sure you do clean up. You really want to work cleanly. You saw that I didn't use a ton of adhesive. It's not necessary. This adhesive will set up in a few hours, but really give it 24 hours before you're going to grout it. And then 24 hours after you grout to hang your piece outside. All right, so really quickly, we're going to go around the 4 just so you can see that this really is going to have a nice top to it. And then people ask me all the time, like, what grout color choices should I use? And it really depends on what you're going for. Medium gray is really going to be the one that is the most easy on the eyes. We don't like to use white. White is, I'm going to pull that one out first. White is really fracturing to a mosaic unless your mosaic pieces are white. So I don't recommend a white grout And if you want to go very dark, like almost black, which you can get all the grouts, all of the very common colors at your, local large box hardware store. But you want to make sure it's a color that is going to really let the tiles do the talking. That's what's really important, is the colors are doing the talking, and that contrast between the fore and the background, as you can see. All right, we're almost done here. Just get around. So you saw I got a little glue on there. It's not a big deal. It will wipe off. What's really happening here, let's get up and over that. Get over this little guy a little bit. Okay. You really want to stay lined up. That's most important. Try not to get the tiles too skewed from each other, because then you're going to have grout lines that are not straight. It really, that's what it is. It's all about the eye, what's pleasing to the eye. So like I said, this glue will dry clear, even though it's white right now. And as long as you don't get it squeezing up, like right here, if you can see it, it's squeezing up the edge of the tile, and that's not good, because then it makes it more challenging for the grout to get in there. So we just clean it up real quick. You can also do this. This can be a faster way to work, which for me right now, since we're going to move on to 2 other techniques and then answer your questions, but you can see also that I got a little bit too much glue in there, and we got to clean that up. Really important. Work smarter, not harder. And then when you do go to grout, I like to tape off the edges of the frame just so the grout doesn't get on there. But it's not super important, because the grout will wipe off. But if you like to work clean like I do. All right, so you get the idea of how the contrast of this dark numbers to this light cream is going to make it a really attractive thing. So let's say you live on, a street that is hard to know what your address is. You have a lot of, mountain homes up in the mountains here, and they don't have sidewalks to have a address sign on, and some of them live behind gates. So it helps them to have an address that just sits out on a rock or leans up somewhere. And this is really going to pop. It'll be really easy for someone to see this address and know they've arrived at the right place. All right, so I'm going to leave you there with that technique. And like I said, and Jonah said, we'll have more questions at the end to ask about this. So now what we're going to do is move on to something that's a little bit more advanced. And this is stained glass mosaic. And I did this one in a vertical so that you can also make a vertical one. And again, you can make it longer if you have more numbers in your address, or make your font smaller. What I want to tell you about fonts is that you can find any of them online. Go online, look for fonts. Hopefully I don't need them. I just hand draw mine. But if you are not someone that can draw, you absolutely can go get the font online. You can enlarge it, and you can go back to using the good old carbon paper and get it right down onto your piece. The other thing I want to tell you about this style, because now we're not using a grid anymore, is measuring so you have the right proportions. It's really important if you're going to do this and you're going to put it out or give it to as a gift, you want the proportions to be right. That's really, really important. So this frame is in US 10 inches. I don't know what metric is, sorry. So in US, it is 10 inches. And what I wanted, like I said, was to do 2 vertical. And I thought what would be really nice is to put them in a box that also helps you for when you are creating. Because when it's in the box, you can say, oh, I have a box that's 4 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. Now I have a space here that's almost 1 inch. And then again, 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I know that if I put my number in this box, it's going to be the same. And that's what we want, is to have them look equal in their space of whatever that is. So with stained glass, I thought what might be fun is I could actually, so my colors for this one are going to be lime green for the numbers and a iridized white stained glass as the background. And you might not be able to see that iridized too much in the camera. But here's the other thing that's kind of fun. But I don't know if this will really end up here. But these are just two little stained glass pieces in the shapes of leaves. And that can just add a little more interest if you want to add that to your mosaic. So you're going to get your font, you're going to enlarge it or do hand drawing, whatever works for you. You're going to carbon copy it onto your piece. You're going to make sure proportionately you have it correct with your size. You're going to do the exact same process as I did earlier with getting these on there. And I'll show you really quickly. This one is got the orientation, so you can also make them hang straight up and down. That's what the beauty of these frames are. So as you can see, this font has a little more personality than our grid one did. And I really like that a lot. And like I said, I hand drew it, but if you can't hand draw, then do whatever works for you. And so the stained glass I'm started to cut. So I just got my first couple pieces in and I prepped a few pieces. But I'm really going to quickly show you how the idea of this font is it goes a little thicker and then thinner and then thick and then thin, is how can you cut some pieces so that you can have them all work in a really cohesive way. Now, this is where things get a little trickier, where I get a little more ambitious. But when you are working in this type of style of mosaic art, you see that there's like a gap there, like a V gap. We don't like that. So what we call it is keystoning. So as you can see, I have taken my tile and I've laid it over this tile, the one next to it, so I can see that if I actually make some dots like that in the diagonal form, I'm going to cut with my nippers right over those black dots. And what I've done is created this little diagonal cut. And now look how nicely it fits next to that piece. But I've only keystoned half of it. And this is a pretty tight curve, this 3. Whose idea was it to do a 3? I'm going to actually keystone both sides of it. So now a keystone, which if you're not familiar in the mosaic world, it's just like when they make the arches in the Roman and Greek architecture, that we like to have that cohesive rounding. And it's done by having your piece wider on the top and more narrow at the bottom. So I'm going to continue doing a couple more of those. And like, as you can see here, this one kind of sits nicely, but it needs a keystone on the other side. So it's lightly keystoned on one side and then pretty generously keystoned on the other side. So now we have 2 that I can lay down. And if you're not familiar with stained glass, we have courses at Mosaic Arts Online that are all about just how to work with mosaic and stained glass, not just the address sign, but you can learn from a couple of our other artists precision cutting with stained glass. And we also have stained glass for complete beginners. And they are other artists than me. We have over 25 artists and over 80 courses at Mosaic Arts Online, so that you can learn lots of different techniques of mosaic art. This is just one of them. But so do you start to see how this has got like this really nice cohesive kind of line, and I'm staying the best I can under these quick conditions to get my pieces to be within my design, making a little bit of a mess, but we can clean up. I have a little rag right here, so I'm cleaning up as I go. Again, that's going to dry clear. There's nothing to worry about there. And then it's just going to continue this way. But as you can see, I'll show you this one because it gets a little thicker, the design. So the design got thicker, but it's still kind of thin right here. And I want these 2 points to line up because that's not very pretty. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off where I put that black mark, and you're going to see all of a sudden that the piece could get a little thicker, but it's still sitting really nicely next to that one. So if I bring in a tile that's a little thicker here, let's see, let's go with this one. It's going to match up. It needs a little Keystone. So we're going to just quickly give it a little nip. And look at that. That's a gorgeous. It's all really making a nice curve all the way around. So you would repeat that exact technique for the 3 and the 6. And then when you got to the bottom here, you see how it's so much more pointy, but you're just going to take your Sharpie and you can sort of see where the line is. And you can also, so look at that. And now what I'm actually going to do is take a little more off. So now look at that. That's a great little point. And so as I come back, as I come around either way, I'm going to meet that point there and everything's going to line up. As you can see, these pieces are all lined up. I don't have anything jutting out farther than the other one. They're all lining up as far as the edges of each piece to each other go. So we're going to glue that one down there. And now I'm going to show you quickly a little bit more of what it's like to do what we call random paving for the background. And that's taking this type of glass. And if I have to set it in there, like that's not going to work, right? That's not butting up nicely. It's not giving me a cohesive look. So I'm going to cut it. And now I'm going to start to work with a little bit more of a curved piece. And we're going to start to set those pieces in here. And I don't want to move our, oh, this one's not, oh, these two are not glued down. All right, let's quickly glue them down so they don't move as I do the background. So these go down. Hopefully everyone's learning a thing or two and kind of visually getting excited. Let's do this. I'm going to go on the outside first. So you can start to see how in smaller pieces, so I've cut these pieces big, but then I plan to cut them down. So right there, that piece would go up against this backside of the 3, and it's just a nice V-shaped triangle. And so you start to just look for the pieces that are going to best fit. And you don't want them too big because you're going to have issues trying to make them fit around. I'm going to give this one a little bit of a nibble curve because we're going up against here. So that works a little bit nicer there. So I'm going to set that one. But random paving is just that. You're just randomly setting pieces. But what we really like to do in mosaic art is have them nicely fit around and next to each other. And you kind of, it takes a lot of practice. I know I'm working kind of quickly, but I just wanted to give you guys some tips on how to different ways you can make an address sign. And next we're going to go into how to do one with Mexican small t. So before I leave you with this one, I thought what might be a really cute way to finish this piece off. And I think I would do it now because I want to make sure I have all the right thicknesses. And I may need to just do these two and just show you. So what you can do is you can create a border. And then this white will be up against it. And you'll have the green, the white, and the beautiful green colors for your address sign. So I'm going to show you quickly how you can just really easily cut these into maybe a few different lengths. I don't like to have things too symmetrical. So if it was me, they would sort of sit like this and be different lengths. And you can, if you want, turn it here or just let it go all the way down. And then this would just be filled in with your background color. So I'll lay down a couple of these. And let's see here. You can start to see how Stained glass is really a fun material to use for mosaic art. So many mosaic artists use stained glass to create their mosaics, and they can create things that look like beautiful paintings, like, you know, impressionistic art, or they can do different kinds of flowers. They can do buildings. Stained glass has a way of having a very painterly effect, but it can also be like this. And it's not a very expensive material to get. And it can really go long distances in creating lots of different types of images or abstract. But people love stained glass. And like I said, we have a lot of courses that use stained glass as the material. And it's a great exterior material. It can definitely go outside. So what I'm going to do here, I just want to show you, is I'm really pushing that oops, that goes over here, that adhesive all over the backside. You really want to try and clean up, get as much adhesive on the backside, especially of larger pieces like that. So this is just how you would continue. We'd finish the border up and get more of this type of random sort of white. Should have used a different color. Oh, wait, I want to make sure. And I want to make sure that the iridized is showing. So this is the iridized side. So I'm going to take that glue that was on the wrong side, squeeze it around, and let's see here. What if, just for fun, we did add these cute little leaves here, and you'd have to work around them, but I think they add a really fun interest. They could go up here and be something like that, and you'd have to do the white around them, but they just are fun, and they're different colors, and yet the green sort of works with it. So I'm going to add them just as, again, it's a really just fun, different effect. And I'm going to kind of stay away from that 6 so it doesn't interfere with the design. And this one, you guys know, as artists, it's always hard to make these decisions. Maybe we'll put this one over there. Yeah, I'm going to put this one over here. So I will have to finish this one on a later date. For those of you that know how I work, it'll happen one day in the future. But remember, it's all about just doing your proportions right, getting your design down. The other way you can do a design is if you don't want to do the carbon paper, you can get a font, get it enlarged to the size you want, and then you can cut it out and you can trace it to your substrate. So that's just another way to do it. Get that little bit of glue out. And I think I'll be introducing the Mexican Smalty now. All right, so that is 2 down. And now we're bringing in our 3rd. So this is going to be a red and a very light gray. And the red is going to be the numbers, and the gray is going to be the background. So 375, and this one again, I drew it out, but I did the boxes so that they all kind of stayed as proportionately as possible. And this one is going to really pop again with the gray, with the red, and then the gray as the background. And all the same, did the hardware on the back, ready to go. And what's great about this and the way I designed it is my idea is that much like the one that's in the course, this one obviously is thicker, and I did kind of my sort of very tight Mexican blanket style sort of laying them. This one is going to just have one piece per going around the number. It's not going to have lots of different choices. And this one, I don't mind if it doesn't match up exactly. That's kind of the beauty of Mexican Smalty, is it's this really beautiful chunky material. I do need to pour it out just so I can find my colors a little better. and find some Keystone. And you're definitely going to still need the Keystone here, but I mean, seriously, is that not the most gorgeous color? Now, it's a little too much pop for me next to this one, but I'll probably use it somewhere over here, and we'll just slowly, gradually get to what is going to be hitting that tile there. But again, same adhesive, still using the DAP Quick Seal. And this one is really got a nice, gentle Keystone to it, but it's way too long. So I'm going to cut it there. And so with this type of material, this is Mexican Smalty. It comes from a small town in, I don't know how small it is, a town outside Mexico City called Cuernavaca. And it's made by the same family for the last 5 generations. So here you can see I have a little bit of a Keystone happening, but not quite enough. So I'm going to lay it over the top, and I'm going to cut more. This is my favorite material to use. I love using Mexican Smalty for any of my commissions, my personal work. I have a series of Mexican blanket style, which is all based on using Mexican Smalty. I'm not loving this piece, so I'm going to skip over it for now and look for another one. The beauty of Mexican Smalty is that a lot of the pieces already come like as though they are Keystone. They come with these diagonal organic shapes. So I'm going to use that one, but what I am going to have to do is a pretty deep cut there to make it match the next one. So here we go. I'm going to cut that. And now you'll see beautiful trapezoid. Look how nice it lines up. Still not ready to use this one. So I'm going to look for one that I like. This one's great. So the idea with this piece, because it's small, is that it's going to just be one piece per throughout this design. I'm not going to add extras like you see in the course. So just so you know, the course is coming with a discount for a week, which is incredible. And it's really gets more involved than what I'm obviously trying to just show you here. Now, this one I should have done a Keystone. So I'm going to quickly pull my tile off. There's enough adhesive. I can lay it back down. But now it'll be easier for me to do the next one. You can see that that has a really gentle Keystone on one side. I really like it, but not enough on the other side. So I'm going to take, I'll do another little drawing, but this is basically when you start to, oh, that'll work too. Who knew? Sometimes the glass cuts the way it wants to. What you have to practice when you're doing keystoning is depending on the tightness of the curve and the size of your whole image will depend how deeply you need to make that cut. Some of these pieces here, like this one, have a really nice cut on one side, but they definitely needs more on this side. And that's because the 3 is not very big in proportion to this piece of glass and in proportion to my design. But as you can see, it's starting to really come together. And the idea is that you want that really cohesive spacing, what we call interstices. Interstices are the space between the tiles. And that is as important as the tiles themselves. Oh, this one didn't get glue. Talking and teaching while working. So this is just really a way to wet your whistle for 3 different ways that you can create address signs. And if you want to learn more about this type of mosaic art, or like I said, any other type of mosaic art, you go to Mosaic Arts Online and check out all the free promo videos. We also have a community called Foundations and Fundamentals, which is taught by me. And that is a private community membership with a monthly fee. And we do live sessions. We have monthly challenges so people can learn to use different materials while working. You get my private attention in our community. You also get a demo. I do demos in under 20 minutes of different things that maybe you've never heard of before or thought of before. And all of it is just a great way to learn. And as a beginner, oh, and you also get $1,100 worth of my courses. So it's just another way to learn how to create mosaic art. Some people like that community sort of thing. I know we have a couple people here on this tutorial today that are with it. Did you see that? I found that piece that had that little point there, and it was just so perfect. So it's really nice. I'm sitting here talking and creating at the same time. Who knew? So I'm going to do this for a couple more minutes, and then I think we'll pop back over to Jonah so I can answer some questions. But does anyone have any questions right now? And Jonah can ask me while I'm sitting here working. So I'm open to, answering questions right now. Oh my God, look how good that looks. Oh, so good. Sorry. Anybody?
I would love to ask you a couple questions here.
Sure.
In general, just because I'm coming into mosaics very ignorant. I've done a little bit or some more like tile and ceramic works because my grandma is a ceramicist. But with the stained glass and stuff, I just didn't realize there were even this many different styles of like mosaic work in this way. Where did you start doing this? How long have you been doing this kind of stuff?
I started, I used to be a costumer for movies and television, and I was on a TV show working, and one of my colleagues asked me if I wanted to come over and make mosaics one weekend. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Well, come over and I'll show you." And that was in 1996. And literally since that day, I have never stopped making mosaic art or teaching it. And so I started with tiles, broken plates and china. And you're right, you can go down the materials rabbit hole of mosaic art and you wouldn't believe all the different choices. It's a lot different than, picking up paint and a paintbrush or ceramics, where you really only have one material you're going to use and you can manipulate it in many ways. With mosaic art, yes, the materials are really what is the impetus for what you're going to create.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it seems pretty endless, the different styles you could tackle with that.
Yes.
We do have a question from Sue Glazer, which also reminds me here. I'm going to start dropping these material links that you had sent me earlier in the comments. So for everyone watching, all of these links are what Tami is using today, and they should be labeled here. But Sue Glazer, there is a link for the frame there. And also, Tami, do you want to talk? Is there a good resource to go to source all of these? Where do you typically go to get your mosaic equipment?
Well, and so that's kind of the tricky part. There are so many, and I did leave the links for everything we covered today, but you can go to, stained glass. It's a lot of Google searching can help you find some of the resources. We use pretty specific ones through Mosaic Arts Online, and those are all in the links that I sent you. The Easy Frame and the nippers come from one of our most popular and largest vendors, Wits End, the ones that are these people right here. We love using Wits End Mosaic. They are a family-owned business out of Wisconsin and just so great to work with. Maryland Mosaic is where the Echo tiles came from, and stained glass. So it's kind of like a good way to get your feet wet is find one or two vendors and stick with them to find what you need.
Okay, so you're not, it takes a little of searching to find all of the tools that you're using. There's not.
Yes. And more of it can be found, like if you do the course, then we have a little bit more extensive, you can download the PDF on the course, and that will give you more links and vendors as well.
Awesome. Well, and let's talk about the course a little more. So you cover all three of these styles?
No. So let's be really clear about that. I wanted to really share with everyone an easy way of creating a mosaic so that if you did use the links that are in what Joan is offering, you'd have everything to get started to do this one, and you'd have everything to get started to do this one. I do have the same links. The Mexican Smalty is on your links as well, but this is the one that gets a lot more extensive in the course, where you learn how to place these tiles. And then we use 2 different color grouts. So you see that's a white grout and then a darker grout. So it's just a lot more extensive, but the students that have created after learning this make some really, really beautiful work.
I see. Okay, so the course is, I got you. And then that course in general, you mentioned it's discounted. What are you offering it for at the moment?
We're offering for 7 days a 20% discount, which is a big deal because Mosaic Arts Online usually only offers 10%. And then once in a while, we have a special deal for 15% off.
Okay, so for 7 days, you can do that. For everyone watching, that link is in the YouTube comments. It is also in the description of the video and will be mailed to you along with the replay as well. I love it. This is so meditative. I could watch you do this forever.
Well, I figured this is better than looking at me for a few more minutes. And if anyone has questions, they'd rather watch me work than see my face. I'll come back in a couple minutes. I did want to talk about, now I'm starting to add some of the background color in here. And again, somehow, I don't know how I did it, but I picked the same color background as the color of the substrate. So I'm not really giving you as much as I could, I guess, as far as contrast colors. But you should know that you really want to make sure that when you use a contrast color, you know, green to red, if you look at your color wheel, whatever is across the color wheel will always contrast, or complementary colors as they're called, each other. So you really want to make sure you got your green and your red, or your blue and your yellow. Those are the colors that are going to really make things pop when you go the opposite, or like we're doing here, the dark with the light behind it. So that's sort of how that works. And it's really important. I get a lot of students that will post things on our community page and they'll say, what didn't work here? And the best thing you can always do in a situation like that is take a black and white photo of your work. And if nothing is popping out between your image and your background, then you didn't change the values, or you didn't change the color enough of your piece. So there isn't enough of a contrast of when the eye goes to look at it.
Gotcha. So do you do some sort of planning color-wise and draft these a bit before you're actually diving in with the tiles?
Correct. Yes, I definitely choose my colors based on those decisions, because it's important that once you're working on something like this, you really want it to pop. And like I said earlier, you know, the piece before, the client wanted the white letters, the white numbers and the dark background, but maybe I would have done it opposite had I done it for myself.
Gotcha. Okay. God, that's so cool. That looks so fun to do as well. I love it.
It is.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
We're not getting a whole lot of questions right now, but I think you've been very thorough in your presentation. So feel free to continue dropping questions in there for everyone watching. I know I could watch Tami do this forever. And I think we talked about the course a fair amount. You mentioned also just the community in general. Is there some other places people can find you, Tami, if they have questions about these things where they can reach out to you or talk to you?
You can try me at mosaicartsonline.com. We do have a contact page, you know, contact us at the bottom. And I'm happy to answer, you know, a couple questions if it's in regards to the courses. I don't teach unless it's a private, you know, I do private consultation. So you can reach out if you want to learn privately from me, Zoom or in person. And then we have a lot on YouTube. If you go to the search bar at YouTube and just put in Mosaic Arts Online, we have a ton of presentations that we've done over the last year and a half with our other instructors. So yes, you can learn from that as well. And that's been a great resource for many of our students.
That's awesome. We live in such a cool time. Everything you can learn online. It's wild.
Well, you're Teachable to thank for that.
Yeah. Well, and the creators, right? We need people making courses to take them. But
yes, I'm coming back to you now.
Yes. Peggy was asking, where can we purchase the Mexican Smalty? That was one of the links you sent me Peggy,
Yeah.
if you look at the string of comments there, the third one down has a few different links, and one of those is that Mexican Smalty. So
It's under the one that says smalty.com. That's all you have to put in. Smalty.com gets you to the Mexican Smalty.
Cool. Well, Tami, we got to wrap up for time here.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. That was so fun to watch and so fun to learn about. Another whole world that I'm completely ignorant to and just fascinated with now.
Thank you guys for bringing me back. And I know that you're most of the creators work in a very digital world. So it's nice to have a little bit of the creative, artistic, tactile thing to introduce people to. And that's all I want to do is just exposure of the art. And I could, go on for hours. And I do in my courses. So there's so much to learn. And we have so many levels of courses that people can take and learn from. So it's just a great way to do it. If you can't be in person, then I feel like Mosaic Arts Online really offers the best way. And all of our instructors are the experts in their technique and style. They must be what they do to be a part of our company.
Okay, so that just want to call that out. Aside from the course that's available today, Mosaic Arts Online, you just have a whole bunch of other Mosaic-related courses in there.
Yes. Yeah, we have over 80 courses from 27 different instructors from around the world.
Awesome. Okay, that is super cool. Well, for everyone watching, please hop in the comments, shout out something you learned today, maybe something you're excited about learning in the course. Feel free, please thank Tami for giving her time here and showing us some cool aspects of Mosaic and all those 3 different ways. That was ambitious, but it was so cool to see just the different approaches to the 3 different styles. And Tami, before we wrap up today, do you have any last little parting words of advice for people who are trying to take on this new challenge, this new skill?
Don't be afraid. Try it. It's not, I promise you, it won't be perfect the first time. But if with a little practice and a little, pretty good quality instruction, you can make good art. And it's really fun. Like you said, it was meditative for you to watch. It's meditative for us to create. It's what we do. We get in the zone. And I can't thank you enough. We do have freebies as well. We have a few of our tutorials, we call them, at Mosaic Arts Online that are free, so people can get an idea of what our courses are like. And all of our courses come with a way in the intro, the promo video, to see inside the course. So that way, if you're unsure about what it is you want to learn, click on the promo of most of our courses and you will see inside the course, so you really get an idea of what our way of teaching is from our instructors.
Awesome. And just to make it easy for everybody, I did just drop a clickable link there in the comments to Mosaic Arts Online. It sounds like there's a whole bunch of resources present there on that website. Thank you so much, Tami. And thank you, everyone, for watching. If you enjoyed this event, please like and subscribe to the Discover YouTube channel. We are consistently trying to bring more folks like Tami out to teach us awesome things and grow this community of artists and creators.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day, Tami, and everyone watching. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.